Benoit Mirabel, and who is really just his position. Could you explain to please?
Yeah, he's essentially the founder of the, and he's the Secretary General of the One Sustainable Health for All Foundation, which is a foundation that encompasses OEGH and our other project, which is the One Sustainable Health Forum. And so these two projects, we're trying to have more synergy between the two of them, but the forum is more of a platform for a lot of different actors to convene and share ideas. And OEGH
You should create some chart.
Yeah, we need
to see the interlinks.
It would be way clearer, yes. But yeah, OEGH is more of the political, strategic side of things. Yeah, and I think the idea for this meeting was to continue our discussion from last night, but also to further outline what we want out of this amendment to the Lyon Declaration.
Very good, sir.
Thank you.
Complex story said very simply.
So maybe I would also like just to highlight that the contribution of the Czech Republic to this global health and to investment to health is to remember in Berlin where launched the publication of Professor Ilona Bush. And there is really a statement of our Prime Minister, Mr. Fiala, and I think that it's really very much relevant of what we are speaking here, and it's just also our contribution to the policy and strategy which we are doing here as a platform of coalition.
Yeah, we'll take a further look at it.
Do you see it or do you know it about this application?
Yes. Thank you. And this was delivered for the EU Berlin meeting.
Yes, it was
Was launched there.
Professor Ilona Bush was
number of places, which I know.
Yeah.
Thanks to the presidency, it's a great chance, for the people who focus normally on the local agenda to get really understanding of the key players, in this local agenda, especially WHO, which I really appreciated. I get a chance to meet with the Secretary General of the WHO in Tel Aviv. Also, I had a chance to discuss, this also medicine initiative and the topics in connection of access of patients, to the treatment. So yes, the Czech presidency is supposed to happen more often.
But isn't it once every 27
30 and a half years, it's such a long time. Yes. And during the time, I mean, you know how it is, in small countries, you usually have the peak of the agenda, you really becomes the part of the discussion, part of the game, and then because of the limited resources and issues, you come back, to your local agenda, and in 13 years nothing, and then again, you jump up, with this topic. So, I would prefer to have it, like once per 5 years, something like that. But it probably will not happen.
But what you're saying is actually one of the reasons for the existence of this effort.
Yeah.
It is to try and reduce the trough effect, right, in the pharmacokinetics of the treatment of the problem, and essentially try and maintain a constant interest and level, if not increased interest in level.
No, you're absolutely right, because and it's quite obvious, when you have those discussions, on the informal labs committee, especially in this platform, that especially the ministers, and lady ministers, from the smaller member states, they have a very, very precise focus, on the topics which really influence their daily life.
Exactly.
If you're then touching, something what is more broad, something, what is not influencing them on daily basis, it's much more complicated, to have something better than a half page of reading material, for this very general position and so on. And I don't know, how to really make it happen. That the smaller member states will focus also with more effort, on the global agenda and the topics of global health strategy and things like that. But it needs to happen. Yeah.
Again, the purpose of this meeting is to focus on 3 of the issues that Alina has proposed to us are the focus of the Czech Republic and the presidency, and so that's what we did. But I'd like to add on one other thing you said, and Detlev is our leader in this concept. Things happen because of personal relations.
Absolutely.
And what you said in the introduction was precisely that you get to see who these people are, you get to shake hands, meet them, and that's the key.
Because sometimes you have a feeling that everybody is replaceable.
Yes.
In reality, it's not like that. I mean, it's on the individual people who decide to move the world, to a bit further, to better position.
Absolutely.
And it's not so easy to replace some people. So yes, I fully agree. And especially now, when we have a combination of 3 crises in Europe, it's even more important, because we tend to really focus on the solutions for the crisis. I mean, the COVID, economic crisis, and war. All those 3 crises together makes our focus even more, on the solutions, and leaving, the broader agenda somewhere, behind. Which is not proper, which is not good. It's not the position, but it's a reality of daily life now in the EU, especially in the states who are affected by the war.
And the scientists are always partially agree.
Yeah.
I think one is, yes, getting organizations together, getting countries together, independently of size. Of course, the problems are everywhere the same. But what we really need to do is independently of the membership of the EU, have a central organization in Brussels of health across borders, and Europe has to take responsibility for all member states, so that we have one, say, agency and one European Institute of Health, or however we call it, where our joint interests in Europe and beyond, that's why we call it global health, are taken care of. Right?
Does this exist anywhere else in the world?
It exists in the United States. You have an NIH.
But does NIH take care of climate? I don't think so. I was
no,
at NIH.
No, this is why we have certain our policies. but the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has a big department on international health, and John Kengasong, whom some of you have met at the meeting we got the Bishop Prize for Global Health, the first one now in Berlin. He's in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. He's now responsible for the International AIDS Program with $10 billion to spend internationally. And he will be moved up to coordinate international global health. Okay. So in the States it's the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, but they closely collaborate, of course. They have a partner, that's the NIH. Okay. Whereas in Europe we are completely fragmented, and we have to overcome this fragmentation. Fragmentation of small and big member states, and fragmentation of different interests. Health is a uniform issue at every. What you do in health is not different in Africa, in Europe, and across the world.
Even more complicated is, that it's not just the differences between the member states, but also between the member states and the European Commission.
Sure.
And the different DGs, in the European Commission, and the level of prioritization for member states and for the Commission is not always the same. I'm talking now about the pharmaceutical package. I'm talking about all those important documents which we are waiting. We are trying to push it also with Anna, especially like a new strategy for rare disease, etc., etc. And you can see that the priority of the member states are not always compliant, with the strategy and vision of the Commission. So it has an even more complicated structure. And if people sometimes have the feeling we have one Europe, which is definitely not the reality. It's just a bag full of fleas, jumping, from one side to another, and it's so complicated to find, the understanding and position. And I can see we just had this half a year, chance to really negotiate and to try to find, for example, a compromise in the area of digitalization, like European health data space. you would say, it's something what everybody wants. It's for every member state, it's so important topic. It's important topic for competitiveness of the Europe, for the health planning, for strategies, which we need for the healthcare. But then you come to the reality, and you see, how it's so difficult to find at least the basic understanding of the definitions. I'm not talking about the real implementation. Yeah? And everybody would say, it's the one Europe, it's something that will help everybody in Europe, the patient, medical professionals, industry, etc., etc. But at the end, it's so different topics. Germany and Czech Republic and Scandinavia absolutely have different views, on how the digitalization and sharing of data, usage of the data for the research, and for planning and for strategic development, how so complicated to find the joint consensus. But we have some tools, and I believe, that the tools which we are going to talk today about, it's exactly the tools which could move us at least a little bit closer to joint positions.
Our hope would be that health is something we all can agree upon, and the means to improve health are the same in every country. So, and it's important for the individual, it's important for society. So hopefully this could be something which unites, also the European Commission with member states.
Yeah, it's changing now. If you take, and I'm sorry, I'm probably distracting the program as I see.
No, it's great. It's a wonderful way. You're the opening act, right? Holding up the.
No, but that the healthcare is a very, very individual and very unique area for every member state. And in the past, we never shared, the joint approaches in the healthcare. And it was really on each and every member state to say, how healthcare will be funded, what will be funded, how it will run, etc., etc. It's not like in energy or in some other industrial fields where there is already for years long standards and cooperation, joint funding, etc. Healthcare, and it's probably thanks to COVID, and we have to thanks really COVID, that it's bringing the member states together to looking for the joint solution. And we saw that the joint procurement of vaccines, the investment to R&D for the vaccines create, the chance that this discussion will continue, and maybe in the future, I will be probably retired those days, but in the future there will be more cooperation and, let's say, really like one healthcare environment in the Europe. But Anička can confirm it, because Anička is also not just a local leader or is there a disease, but Anička is also a member of the EVROPA on the European level. So with Jan Lekam we working together, for quite a time, and yeah, as I said, it's so complicated, but there is a small light at the end of the tunnel, and maybe, thanks to new DG HERA and those new tools on the European level, there will be chance for joint procurement, joint statement, and we are coming step by step to close to one healthcare environment.
So you're describing there is an opportunity.
There's a chance, and the crisis always creates the opportunity.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And we had this economic crisis here in 2008, 2009. In those days, I also had the Ministry of Trade and Industry. And we really hope that this crisis will be longer and deeper, and it will allow us to implement, the changes which we hoped, for years. It didn't happen. It was not so bad. But this crisis, it looks, really bad, and it's a big change for all those things, you have it in your strategies and WHO. So let's use this crisis and opportunity to really change the situation.
Very good.
Can we tackle also a little bit the process of preparation of this strategy, because as we know, this afternoon it will happen, but we also, it was expected that under our Czech presidency this document will be shared and let's say sent to these broader comments to all member states. How it will be after today's afternoon, what will happen, and it will be the role of Swedish colleagues already, or how it will be? Because I think that you are, Jakub, also, of course, involved. I am even surprised that you are not in Brussels today, frankly speaking, but how it is?
Whole next week.
Next week. Just, I think.
Yes. Yes, exactly. I mean, it's great to have this opportunity to discuss also, you know, the very important C, Brian, the continuity C, because what we find to be of utmost importance is to keep focus on these issues along the sequence of presidencies that we are having at this point in time. And then why it started under your presidency, could I use that term?
It was December.
Yeah, okay. Yes, but in February, in the French presidency, as you know, then this declaration was framed, and I think the continuity issue has to build on this declaration to see how we can follow up through a sequence of presidencies. And we have a task today, I guess, to see how we could adjust the course of the Lyon Declaration, and the next step will be in Stockholm on the 9th of February, where we have more or less the program in place. And I think one of the issues that you bring up is so central, and that is what we call the sovereignty paradox. That, as you say, obviously the nation states, they have responsibility for the healthcare of their own population, that's how it is. But at the same time, health is, as we know, transnational. This is certain experience from the pandemic. So this is a paradox, and you are exactly spot on, of course, when it comes to how should we really handle this paradox in the best possible way. That is, as we see it, a major challenge. So, but we are optimistic, aren't we? So. Yeah, we have to. We have to.
It's better to be.
Yeah, and, it has to do with governance, obviously. It has to do with you know, how we organize the issues relating to health at the EU level. And I think we have built into this group quite a lot of competence on these issues. And this is some of the points on the agenda today.
Okay. Benoit, do you want to add something?
Yes, I think that we strongly believe that there is a place for a regular dialogue with the member states and the Commission, Council, we have to see. If we are able, in our side, I would say, from the private, professional, academics, NGOs, foundations, business company, together to have a common advocacy, or, you know. So this is the purpose of the coalition, is to agree together, and because we know that the solution, as you said, crisis creates opportunities, but the solution will come from together, with respect to the complementarity and the role, the tasks of each of us. And it's true that what you said, Peter, sovereignty, because also it reminds me Commission, Council of Europe, and this you know very well, but it's politics. And at least about the expertise that we know, we should be able together in Europe, the professional civil society somehow, to have a common agreement on what are the priorities, and it's what we're trying to do. And it's true that, going back to your point, we were invited to do so. It was our French the former ambassador for global health, Stéphanie Tedou, who asked us, you have a kind of platform, because we created first with the Global Health Summit with Lieutenant Ben, a platform, One Sustainable Health Forum, which is about SDGs and One Health. It's also one of the lessons after the COVID-19 to have a more holistic approach for health. And due to that forum, we were invited to speak. So it shows that, you know, the member states or the Commission, they need also to have you know, a platform of coordination, because there is a lot of lobby in Brussels, in each country. But at the end of the day, it's many times, many energy, and are we able to gather what are the main priorities? And so when we have, you know, main priorities, maybe there is more interest and capacity to move. So it is what we believe, and we are of course very happy to be here today and to be here with the Czech Medical Association in the country. You have the EU presidency, and it's a very good sign. I think that after France, you are doing so, and before Stockholm, Sweden, and we are ready also to do so in Spain.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And then Belgium, it's a long-term process, but and what is very important, and it was a request, a wish from Professor Zazina Alena from your Czech Medical Association, was to invite the youth generation. So this is why the debate, we will have a debate, it will be moderated by Audrey. I don't know if you already introduced yourself.
No, not yet.
Huh?
We've not introduced everyone here. Everybody just said hello in the beginning.
I'm just reading here, trying to recognize the faces.
Because maybe we could introduce, maybe.
Yeah, but that would be helpful.
Oh, you speak French?
Yes.
You said tour de table. C'est excellent.
I can speak many languages that way.
Après vous alors, vous voulez vous présenter? After you?
See, I can present myself. I am here as a representative of newly established National Association of Patient Organizations. So in other words, it's an umbrella of patients. But I'm a chair of Rare Diseases Czech Republic and also a board member of EURODIS, as it was mentioned by Jakub. And I'm mainly a mother of a child with a rare disease. To be brief.
Excellent.
I'm Alena Štefová, and I'm a member of the board of the Czech Medical Association, but my background is very related to WHO, and I served for 50 years in the position as a head of the country office in the Czech Republic, but still I am a member of the standing committee, which is a voted position. And after that I continue as also in the same position as Jakub, as a deputy minister, even in the same room.
In the same room, yeah.
The same room.
Get your office, yeah.
Did she write anything on the wall or scratch the initials on the desk?
It's mine, Alena.
Elena was here.
Yeah, but it's my background, and the preventive medicine is really my heart, let's say, interest and my professional interest for
Thank you.
professional.
I'm David Gunn, I'm a medical doctor. I've been the president of the Charité, and we thought that science has to take responsibility for global health beyond our own institutions, so we created the World Health Summit as a platform for, like this one, for exchange. And we're all invited forward to the World Health Summit. Actually, I may say, we also have regional meetings. We have always in October, we have the summit in Berlin. We have regional meetings going around the world. And next year, April 13, we'll have a regional meeting in Washington, which will be a very political meeting with various members, and there will be at the same time the international meeting of the World Bank. So there will be a lot of people around in Berlin, in Washington, and we may want to use that for our purpose.
Okay, so briefly, I'm currently the Deputy Minister of Health from February, so quite short time. As Alena said, I'm sitting in the same office, but previously I worked, for 10 years for the Industry Association, so the pharma business. And I also get a chance to work for Ministry of Trade and Industry before as the head of the division of investment, so for direct investment to the country, and for years, in the NGOs like Caritas International, the Catholic Charity, and a number of others around the globe after the humanitarian crisis, and running the refugee camps and things like this. So this is my background. I'm really looking forward for discussion today.
I'm Stefan Tvačina. I'm Chief of Czech Medical Association, internist and endocrinologist.
I'm Savannah Fairclough. I'm the project officer for One Europe for Global Health.
I'm Caroline Gardner from Philea. It's a membership organisation of foundations, 200 of the largest foundations in Europe, plus 25 also national associations, for example, the Czech Donors Forum. So through our membership, we represent roughly 10,000 foundations across Europe. And I coordinate a project that's trying to mainstream climate across the philanthropy sector, so getting non-climate and environmental foundations to think about their climate impact.
And she's just back from Egypt.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
To look for the climate forum.
For the forum, yeah.
So I'm Audrey Fontaine, so I'm a medical doctor by training, a psychiatrist. Quite quickly I realized that we cannot talk only about mental health in silos and we need to go global, so I became interested in global health. So
Mental health.
it is a very big topic. It's really
hot
global
topic.
health.
Yes.
It is. But that's why we shouldn't work in silos, and
Yeah,
that's one of the main things that made me want to go to global health, keeping this in mind. So I did some youth still, hopefully for a few years, but I did some work within youth involvement in health and beyond over the last few years, and I'm currently part of an initiative that's called the European Health Parliament, which gathers young people around Europe to come up with policy recommendation for the European Commission.
Yes, yes. Yeah, we saw yesterday evening how important it is to include the voices from the young generation, and I think we had a fantastic discussion yesterday on this issue. So that's not least thanks to your vision. And if you look at the sea, there should be this grand sea, where we look not only along the sequences of presidencies, but of course along the sequence of generations. So this is a very important issue. So I try to contribute to the development of the Lyon Declaration, and I'm responsible then for, that's a heavy burden, to see how we can follow up appropriately in Stockholm, as I said. I myself am the president of the Karolinska Institute in Stockholm, which is a medical university, and with now a keen interest in global health, I should say. And before that, I served as president of the University of Oslo, which is also a university that is very much engaged in global health. And of course the Nordic countries, they contribute quite a lot, I would say, to the global health arena in some, even though we are very small countries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brian Rudkin, I work for Savannah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
My name is Petr Struk. I'm pediatrician and psychologist by profession, but I'm already retired. I worked for years in the Ministry of Health, responsible for even for health policy for several years, and then for education. And at the moment I'm chairman of the board of Czech Health Literacy Institute, sitting here in this building.
So nice to meet you all. My name is Hanna Kropova, and I'm representing medical students from Czech Republic here. I am the president of IFMSA Czech Republic, which is national member organization of the International Federation of Medical Students Associations.
Very good, welcome. Benoît Libet, so I'm the Secretary General of One Sustainable Health for All. The forum, One Sustainable Health Forum, and now this coalition, two activities. I'm the chairman of the French Foundation, and I'm a member of the French Council for Economic, Social and Environment. And I was in charge of doing a report on how to build European Health Union. I was not alone, after many hearings, and it was in April. And it's so in France you have three official bodies. You have the deputy, senators, and another council, which is this council. We are about 175 councillors. We are paid by the government for 5 years to bring expertise and to make reports, etc. So it's an official, and it was a wish of the government to how we can build this European Health Union. So of course it's a little stone on the way, but we have to work on that, as we know, because it's a big challenge, especially Ole Peter reminds us very often one Europe, because we have also many nationalism, and that they need to understand that it's also in our interest, is the interest of the whole population. So this is why when we did this report, I was with a trade union as a co-author. It was more about Europe at work, health at work, and mental disorders, mental health, etc. And me, I was more about global health, so we were in a complementary view. And we know that for the Europeans, it's very important also to take into consideration their own life every day, and sometimes they are far away from what happens in Africa or in Bangladesh. But as we know, diseases have no borders, especially pathogens, and the animals bring us 75% of the infections of rates. It's one word, one Europe, one word.
And so,
I think that we also need to really provide this act of signature of the Czech Medical Association to be really also a member of this distinguished platform. And we would be happy. Can we do it, or maybe because it's maybe you are the supervisor of this. If you can.
And I would say that it's a start. As it was said, we started this year in February. So now, thanks to your commitment, you are one of the pillars. You become one of the pillars of this initiative, step by step.
And to add to this, Ole Peter mentioned the Lyon Declaration, which was the beginning. As of today, and this is what we are announcing here, it is no longer going to be called the Lyon Declaration, but the One Europe for Global Health Declaration, with the recommendations, etc. And each country that will be giving suggestions as per the priorities of the countries during their presidencies. We are calling it amendments. So it would be here the Prague Amendment, because this is being signed in Prague, etc. And it will be the Stockholm Amendment afterwards.
So we're following sort of the model established in 1776.
Yeah.
That's the constitution with amendments. Yes, and of course.
That's why I'm here.
Yeah.
And equity is one of the goals.
Absolutely.
We have a photographer.
Yes, right there.
Yeah.
It's well documented.
Okay. So we need to shake hands. We need to show the document and to...
Look into the camera.
There you are.
Okay.
There's a camera here.
Well, please.
Thank you. We did it before the end of the morning concert. That's great. Now what?
Good morning, everyone. We are now opening a new session of the coalition One Europe for Global Health. We started in February in Lyon during the French presidency of the EU, and we are now in Prague, in Czech Republic. We were 1 month ago in Berlin also during the World Health Summit, having 2 events talking about this initiative. So we are very pleased to be here in the Czech Medical Association. Thank you, Professor Stefan Savina. You are one of the co-chair of this session with Audrey Fontaine, together, the youth generation with us today. So, Professor Savina, could you tell us why the Czech Medical Association decided to join this coalition?
Thank you for the word. Welcome to Czech Republic. You are in the hall of Czech Medical Association. We are a big association, 37,000 members and 120 member societies. And we use this meeting to join the strategy for global health and One Health, which is very important for us because it is impossible to do something on a national way. It is better to do on an international way. As I saw your results in the last meeting, so it is really a wonderful occasion for us to join this meeting.
Thank you. So you have signed today the commitment of the Czech Medical Association to the coalition. What does it mean for you, for the Czech Medical Association?
No, it's a very good international cooperation because it is really, really useful to work in this field internationally.
Thank you. So Audrey, you are the co-chair also of this session. Thank you for being with us today. So can you tell us about your background and why you are committed in this initiative today?
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Benoit. So good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for inviting me to chair this session today. Not me as a person, but for inviting young people around the table. I do think it's an important conversation to include youth and to meaningfully include youth for a couple of reasons. We very often hear that youth would bring innovation, youth would bring inspiration, but youth are not only here to inspire you, youth are here also to help you or help us implement the solution. So we can be included in the strategic thinking, in decision making, and in implementing the solutions. So that's why we're very happy that there are young people at the table in every single event and decision that we are doing. Also because young people are working on the field, and it is very important when we come up to a topic like One Health and global health to underline the partnerships that are existing within the field. Definitely young people are working with everyone. They're working with field workers, they're working with policy, they're working with the communities, so it's important to have them. So maybe just a quick word about myself. So I'm a psychiatrist, I'm a medical doctor, a psychiatrist, and also policy professional with a master's in public affairs, and I've been working for the last couple of months with an initiative that is called the European Health Parliament, which gathers young people, young European leaders in health to discuss some policy recommendation that we could do to the European Commission on some specific topics. So the topics are decided with the European Commission. And it is a good way, a good example of youth inclusion and youth involvement and engagement, because we managed to talk across sectors. There were people from the private sector, the public sector, from the field, so healthcare workers, from policy. There were also people representing patients' organization. We worked together in a transgenerational manner as well, because we decided to go to consult other groups and to discuss, and in the transformational manner, so that we can do propose the correct policy to the European Commission. So yeah, very happy to be here today and to hear more about what our fantastic panel here is gonna talk about. Maybe I need here to remember to everyone, we usually say that young people are the leaders of tomorrow, but we are the leaders of today, because if we don't act today, there will be no tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Audrey. So we have our two co-chairs here at the Czech Medical Association in Prague. And before going in the details of the round table, we have the pleasure to have Jakub Dvoracek, Deputy Health Minister of the Czech Republic. So the floor is for you.
Thank you very much for the invitation first, but also the chance to have a discussion with such a distinguished people, and also the chance to see, how not just the governments of the member states and the European Commission, but also the medical scientific societies and also the global organizations are coming towards the joint strategy for the healthcare. For us, for the Czech presidency, this was one of the key topics. Of course, we had a number of key healthcare issues. We tried to really address and build on what our French colleague did in the past before the Czech presidency. We have a trio of presidencies, so we really tried to follow up what our French colleagues did in the area of rare disease, in the area of oncology, number of other fields, and we built on that. We tried to move it forward, what was started, and is it probably the only chance? I mean, if you take the half a year of the presidency, it's not enough to really move something, to the end. And now we try to also create a bridge, to the Swedish presidency, to have this trio working together on the number of fields and topics. And we had also the presidency which reacts on the one of the main or biggest crises in the history of the Europe, I mean, in the area of healthcare. So, I mean, we pass, through the COVID 2 years. Of course, it will be crazy not to have some lessons, from this, from those difficult 2 years. And what we take, from that, not just the Czech presidency, but I believe the whole Europe, is that in the healthcare, it's not possible to really react on the national basis. We have to move it more to the European, to the global response. And that's something what we really try to have as a part of our discussion. You know that today the EU Global Health Strategy is becoming official, it's becoming live. It's something what was launched today officially at the Brussels at the European level, and we took it as a big issue during the Czech presidency, and we tried to really move it forward as far as possible. So for us, it's a great success that this is coming out. But what we also saw, during this discussion, that it's very important to have a member state somehow in line, to have a joint approach to the global topics of WHO and the other global organizations. So what we introduced and what was one of the key outputs of our discussion is the informal cooperation mechanism. Something what the Czech presidency developed to have the platform where the member states can discuss and can find the joint position towards the key issues discussed on the global level. So this is, I think, something practical, something, what going to be called already during the Czech presidency, and it's also giving the Swedish presidency the tool how to organize the position of member states, to the One Health strategy, One Health approach of WHO, and other key important materials. Let me just highlight it that this last year, and so it's been this half a year of the Czech presidency, it's a significant part of existence of DG HERA. If I take the French and Czech presidency, and we now celebrate the 1 year of HERA, it's exactly these two presidencies who were at the launch, of this new platform or new directorate, on the European level. And I see the HERA as a body which could change the way how the Europe, approach the healthcare crisis. We are talking about the new venture fund, to support the transfer of R&D. We are talking about the joint procurement. We see already the outputs of this platform on the procurement of monkeypox. So there is already a lot of steps which happened and shows that the member states can work together. So let me really thank you to all of you that you are trying to move it forward, and this One Europe Global Health activity, because it's really giving us the good backup for all those steps which are happening right now, and I believe it will happen already in coming months and years. So once again, thanks to Purkyně Society, Alena Šteflová and Professor Svačina, because without you two, it will not happen. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for this introduction. We have already one question. Do you have a few minutes to try to answer this question, a key question, and you will be also able, each of you, to answer this question. It comes from an expert. How do you see the relation between this strategy, Global Health, One Health strategy, and one of the strongest mandates of the EU, which is also a very important health determinant, trade. Trade, negotiation, discussion, industry in health. How we could, combine this global health, One Health with trade. It's true that we know that EU was built not for health. Maybe that we can imagine that if we have to create EU today after the pandemic, health would be a common activity, which is not the case. So just your reaction as an expert, because I know that you were also in the civil society before being in the government. So due to your experience, how do you see how we can move EU with this new global health and One Health strategy? And you can have a look to the camera when you speak. It's just...
It's a, of course, difficult question, to be answered in few seconds or 1 or 2 minutes. But I see the intention of the European Union to really think, about the future resilience of the Europe to the supplies of pharmaceuticals, the production, and also the R&D, and the competitiveness of the Europe, in this field as one important part of global health. If I take, from where the solutions comes, from where the solution to deal with COVID-19 comes at the end, it comes from the Europe. If we see, the most successful producer of vaccination, it comes, from here. And I mean the small company which was then bought by the big company, etc., etc. But the technology itself, it's the successful story of the European R&D, and I think this is something what we have to preserve, what we have to even grow it further. We have to think more, how to invest the public money to the R&D to have a real success story, on the transition from the scientific sector to the real life, to the patient. But we thought that this solution comes from here. So the organization of the R&D, the investments, the funding, and of course then also the good and creation of the environment which will allow the production into Europe. It's something what is very close to answer the question of the global health strategy and requirement of to solving those healthcare crises and issues around the planet. It's the United States, it's the Europe, and of course, we are responsible that those technologies are then coming to the people all around the globe and solving the crisis.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. So, as it was said just in the introduction, one of the wishes for this session was to include, to invite the youth of this generation that will probably see, we hope, the Europe global health, One Health strategy implemented. But we know that the youth is also a spirit, and in terms of spirit, one of the youngest among us is Detlev. So Detlev, you are the founder of the World Health Summit, also the Rudolf Virchow Foundation that give, for the first time this year in Berlin, a Global Health Prize. Can you tell us the vision, because you are one of the pillars, one inspiring this initiative that we started this year, by the way.
Thank you very much, Benoit, calling me the youngest member of this group here. Indeed, I'm getting younger every day with the young people around me. And in my long life, as a basic scientist and then as somebody who was responsible for university medicine, the Charité in Berlin, I strongly feel that science has to take more responsibility than just doing good science. We have already heard that science also has a responsibility to do something for the trade and for economy, because everything in technology and in medical care has a scientific basis if it's well done. So science has a great responsibility, and this is not really taken care of, especially, if I may say so, in the tradition of Europe, which has a great academic tradition. And of course, we have excellent science and technology developed there, but we missed a point when we used science from former times, for example, producing energy and old technologies and using the resources of this planet and not realizing, at least not fast enough, that we need new technologies for energy and other areas, mobility, to save this planet. That's why the basis of the responsibility of the future of science is to save this planet. This is a big goal. We cannot do that alone. We have to do that jointly, and the United Nations have developed the Sustainable Development Goals, 17, and these all have to be fulfilled in a way, accomplished in the year 2030 if we want to save the planet. So we have no time to lose. And I'm very happy, thank you very much for organizing this and telecasting this around the world and being active wherever we can. And thank you very much for the Czech Medical Association and Czech Republic, the government, to take this on to the European level and then pass it on to the Swedish, and we'll hear about that, and kind of the French, Benoit, and your group, the French government during their presidency of the Council really initiated that. We, in Germany, I'm speaking for the World Health Summit, which I founded, and now the President Axel Priest sends his very best regards. We were among the first to join you to, in this coalition for One Europe for Global Health, to make this an important movement. Of course, we need more support, and we are looking, and we are very happy to have the Czech Republic, and we will hear about Sweden and other countries joining, and organizations and foundations joining. We need strong support of civil society, of science, of the private sector, and of politics. We have to be kind of the pressure group pushing that, and we cannot do that alone. We have to do it as a coalition. The coalition has to be as strong as possible, and we have to form kind of the network of networks in order to have a strong voice. Saving the planet, that's a big word. But Europe has a very important part to play. Europe is an important region in the world, and we see now, you know, with the recent developments, perhaps even more so than we thought in the very beginning when Europe was being formed. And health, of course, is just Sustainable Development Goal number 3. But I consider, and many of us consider, health as the compass, as the entry point to all the other Sustainable Development Goals. Peace and justice goes by itself, but it's now even more important than we thought it would be. Without peace and without justice, you know, there will be no health, especially not in areas of war. Education is extremely important in order to have preventive measures and to have self-support and your own initiative to maintain health yourself and for the family and for your loved ones and across. Energy is something we speak about a lot because, of course, if we don't have clean energy, we will not be able to save the world. So Europe has an important role. Europe is an important player in world economics, in world policies. It has to become more important, and I'm very glad that our Deputy Minister is going to be in Brussels next week and work in this area to make Europe stronger. And of course, Europe itself. You know, science has to move on, take more responsibility. Foundations and organizations have to take more responsibility. But Europe itself, of course, is the kind of the result of political movement. Fortunately, great, wonderful. There's only way for the future with a united Europe. One Europe for global health, not just for Europe, but globally. But the institutions in Europe also have to adapt to the new challenges. I'm very happy to hear that HERA and other organizations are now put in place and being strengthened so that Europe can play a bigger role, and they will have all our support. And I think joining in forces will be the only way to save the planet and to provide and improve health for all around the world. Thank you very much, and thank you so much for your initiative, Benoit and your friends in France and around the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Detlef. So it's our initiative, and we know that in all the countries in Europe, thanks to the commitment of the experts, things are moving. And especially today, here in the Czech Republic, due to the commitment of the Czech Medical Association. We realized that we could move forward together, and you remind us that this is possible in a dialogue, regular dialogue. We would like to set up a regular dialogue between member states, commissions, the council, and the civil society, the professional civil society. And we have some members of the civil society here that are going to speak. Thank you, Detlev. But we have also some people connected, some person, and I would like to hear Dorley, Secretary General of the Garstein Forum. I was in the Garstein Forum. Hello, Dorley. So you are also a strong pillar of this initiative due to the commitment of the Garstein Forum and especially the manifesto. You can remind us what is it, this manifesto for Europe, issued in 2021, and during also the last event of the Garstein in September, we were talking about global health, One Health, with Sandra Gallina, Clement Sauer, your chairman. And can you tell us about what was discussing and what is underway? Because we know that today the EU is going to release, by the way, the global health strategy.
Thanks very much, Benoit, and good morning to everyone. Benoit, you mentioned both the European Health Forum Gastein, which I represent, but we also facilitate the European Health Union initiative, and we have issued the manifesto that you mentioned, which calls for a true European Health Union, so a very ambitious European Health Union. And at the EHFG 2022, we called for a moonshot. And the discussions there confirmed that we need to use this window of opportunity now that health is at the center of discussions and policymaking. And the participants agreed that health needs to be ambitious on the one hand and very daring, but also willing to think health in a new way. And this may require from us to move away from concepts that have been very familiar to us and also very comfortable, we have to say, like health in all policies, which was born during the Finnish presidency in 2006. And it has been a very useful concept, of course, to adhere to over the years, but it is also one that expected other sectors to consider health. And in reality, if we're completely honest, that has often proven to be very difficult to convince other sectors to contribute to improving health via their policy decisions. And at the EHFG, we also saw that on a smaller scale, involving speakers from other sectors has often proven to be difficult because health was not as high on their agenda as we thought it should be. So this might be a moment when we have to ask ourselves, have we been riding a dead horse? And I would say probably not during those rather stable years. As I said, those concepts were very helpful and also worked very well. But now that we're finding ourselves in a perma-crisis, and that has blatantly shown us that different approaches are needed. We need to move away from expecting all other sectors to consider health. And I think it's high time for us to move on to a new paradigm. And it has been called health for all policies. And, you know, of health actually truly working together with other sectors to achieve positive outcomes for health, but health also contributing to other sectors. And this will require a mind shift on all ends. And it also requires the need for us to accept that we have ignored warnings. And I cannot agree with Detlev enough to what he was saying. We've actually been preaching the need to move beyond our silos when we did not. So I'm being a bit critical here towards the health sector, but to get back to the moonshot and to have a positive outlook to the future, what should our moonshot be? We're still finding ourselves in a pandemic. We're faced with the complexity of the climate emergency, an energy crisis, a looming economic crisis, a war raging in Europe. So the situation couldn't be more dire. So our moonshot must be ambitious, and it must be an ambitious and overarching One Health approach, which looks beyond the traditional spheres of health policies, and it considers the health of humans, of animals, of plants, and their respective environments. So to consider our planet as a whole and viewing all the health also globally. And I think it's high time for this shift, and I also think we owe that to the next generations. Thank you.
Thank you, Dolly. That's very clear. And among your panelists in the Gastein, we had Runa Khan. Runa, she is also one of the founders of the OSH Forum. She's in Bangladesh. She founded Friendship, and she was in the round table, by the way, in the Gastein with Sandra Galina. So, Runa, do you hear us?
Perfectly, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah. I don't know if we can see you.
Yes, you should be able to see me. I'm on. Can you see me? I can see myself. My video is on. It might be locked from your side.
Maybe it's going to be on the screen, but not for the moment. Yes?
Ah,
yes.
There I am. Okay, now
Perfect.
I can see myself also.
Yes.
So it's okay.
How are you?
Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here with all of you.
So, Runa, you know, we are talking global health, One Health. I know that it makes sense for you, especially from Bangladesh. You can explain how Friendship is dealing with these issues on a daily basis with your team in all the country, and why it's important for you know, this part of the world to have Europe as a partner, as a strong partner, and also because, of course, when we were in Berlin, we had some people from Africa, from Latin America, so we move, and today is your turn, as you are a member of the initiative. From Bangladesh, how do you see working with Friendship, the role of the EU to promote One Health, global health?
Thank you very much, and thank you for giving me this opportunity. And I guess 5 minutes, 5-6 minutes is all right?
Yeah, you can go
okay?
5-7.
Thank you very much. Yeah. 5-7 minutes, okay. So let me start off why global health is so important, global sustainable One Health is so important, and why it is important globally. So maybe 5 years ago, you could have questioned this, but today, I think having COVID, which has surrounded the whole world, and the linkages of COVID to our healthcare system, I think no one today is going to question the importance of One Health. 20 years ago, I started working in one of the most climatically difficult areas in the world. You know, Bangladesh is in the top of the IPCC list, 7th, I think, and in demography, it is #1. How does being #1 in demography means that we need to have a total oneness with the environment, with the day-to-day animals and life that we live with, and at the base of that, which is human health. And it is, and it was from then on that we realized, for example, antibiotics. How does antibiotics work through the whole cycle? We know it today, but it is so important to have it measured, right from the fertilizers which we are providing in the ground to the animals who are eating it, to the human health which is coming in. I think this is extremely important to put you on board, because we see this incredible rise of the difficulties that are arising from being, resistant diseases. #1. So that is, I think, something which we need to bring on the front right now. It has been there, but in third world countries, it was so easy to get cured with an antibiotic, to provide fertilizers in the soil, artificial fertilizers, and grow more food. It was so easy, but we need to step back and think of this, and it can only come with very strong agriculture, very strong scientific research by which we can take this to not only the policymakers, but also to the people who are actually using this, the doctors, the farmers. And we realized that something was going amiss. So when I started Friendship, I knew that I had to link all the services in a chain of development. And this happened because, well, first we needed to address suffering, because that was very important. Because if a human being is suffering, no other interventions or empowerment or knowledge or awareness actually works. Therefore, suffering first. We started the first mobile ship hospitals in the country. This was to reach healthcare to those who could not reach healthcare. And we had to be responsible for this healthcare, so we developed a 3-tier healthcare system which links the right from awareness to mitigation. You know, so we have operations, be it life-saving operations, cold cases, and awareness of things which must not be done. For example, safe drinking water, etc. And of course, you have to ensure that the animals, you know, you get diseases right from the animals. We were seeing this. If we were giving preventions for deworming a child, we needed to deworm the animals also in that village. Otherwise, there was no possibility of the children getting dewormed because they were running around barefoot. And this kind of a thing, one after the other, we realized that poverty alleviation was such an important thing, and this is totally linked to agriculture. And agricultural usage of nutritious food is also linked to how we deal with nutrition. What is it that we are providing for them in the soil, in the nutrition, to give better nutrition for the child, to give better nutrition for those who are not having enough proteins, not having enough food, you know, and vegetables, and this balance. So agriculture, fishing, livestock all became part of our ecosystem. And from there, we realized that actually what we were doing was linking the whole thing to a climate scenario. Now, how does that work? It means that we could not build a bridge where floods were going to come in and the bridge would be washed off. We could not provide long-term cropping because land was going to be flooded the next year, inundated next year. So it had to be short-term, season to seasonal cropping. We needed to ensure the crop rotation came properly so that nutrients were kept in the soil, you know, leguminous plants, you know, so that needed to be put in. And we realized that animal fodder had to grow along with whatever food we needed. So poverty alleviation in a long-term, with a long-term perspective needed to be taken in. Otherwise, we would have within 20 years, children who were not healthy growing up. Now, this is also a result of understanding that project-to-project work today is a very difficult thing to take. You know, when you're piloting projects and doing project-to-project interventions, you do not keep a long-term measure in perspective and long-term output in perspective. It doesn't work. This One Health solution needs to be sustainable. And I think this is why it's so important to ensure that there is sustainability of this One Health. And very often, we lose the long-term focus on this, you know, in trying to get short-term outputs. One other thing that I find extremely important in the link in the chain is the sustainability happens when internalization happens of understanding, which means that every time a person is migrating, every time you're putting in an intervention, you are putting it in the right time, in the right amount, in the right way, and so that the people themselves are are understanding that they need to internalize. You know, I mean, they are internalizing it because they are feeling the need for it. And when that happens, even when you are not there, sustainability continues because they want to carry it forward.
And Runa,
they know they need it. Yes.
Runa, do you think that Europe, because you started a partnership with Europe in Luxembourg, in France, in different countries, from Bangladesh, you succeeded, and you consider that working in this long-term commitment Europe, with developing global health, One Health, could be a partner in addition to the networks that you have already created in the civil society in Europe? How do you see the cooperation?
I think where I was coming to with no project-to-project work was exactly this, Benoit. You know, where you have the donors in the first world and you have the recipients in the second world, the understanding between the two is extremely important. So, and because there are certain things, we are far better than the first world. We are meaning the country, people themselves. But there are certain things which are very much needed from the international community or the first world countries. So what Friendship did was understanding that the project-to-project solutions were not really working. Friendship decided to open an international organization, and you know, this localization of funding, I mean, it's exactly something which I started 20 years ago. Well, let's say 18 years ago. It is that funding needs to come from the communities internationally directly into the projects, into programs, into communities which knows what it is that they want and what it is that they need for long-term sustainability. So this jump where donors are not donors, donors are partners in the working relationship, which means starting from understanding the needs, starting from ensuring giving the right things and doing it in the right way. There are certain gaps, you know, which we cannot fill at the field level. And these gaps need to be filled by you. And what are those gaps? There is, at the background, there are management structures, which I think you do much better than we do, because we are much better working at the field, but also scientific research. I mean, this is so important because just having a document which actually nobody is understanding, those who are implementing is understanding, is not good enough. And this is what we are seeing over the years. Government, when you are going through a government and you are giving them a minister a document which the minister actually hardly reads, you know, or you're giving it to a bureaucrat who only wants a very simple document, we need to simplify scientific data which are coming to us. And I have brought this up over and over and over again, including with the Rockstrom, with Dr. Johannes from the Rockstrom, that we need to simplify scientific data coming in. And
okay.
This is somewhere where we can really link together and work together. And providing, because we've been working for so long, making the academic lab with those organizations which have been working on this methodology over 10, 20, 30 years. I think we have an academic lab which you can come and use.
Yes, thank you, Runa. And I know also that you have an academic training in Bangladesh to train the trainees. And so thank you for being with us, because it shows that we need a chain of capacities from the field. You are in the field with your team for decades, and to the Commission, to the memberships, to the civil society together to face the challenges. It works like this. So thank you, Runa, for being with us. And you, of course, you can stay for the rest, of course, of this session here in Czech Republic, in the Czech Medical Association. We have also Zlatko, who was the chairman of the Council of Ministers in Bosnia-Herzegovina. Zlatko, you were with us in Berlin 1 month ago during our discussion, and I remember that you are really convinced about the challenge for Europe to face this challenge, global health, One Health. Now you have created your foundation, and so hearing our discussion that we started a few minutes ago now, what do you think? What are your recommendations, your advices, and your commitment? Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Benoit. First, I have to say I'm so sorry that I couldn't be with you in Prague, because that's one of my favorite places, I mean, all over the world. So, but hope next time we'll be better. I'll be happy with it. Anyway, Benoit, I will just start with a little declaration, a long-term commitment that was saying that converging on a health as a global integrated commons should be a shared denominator for EU's green and digital transformation. We already heard some of predecessors who were talking about the importance of connecting health with the green agenda. So I'll talk about just briefly about two issues. First one is how we should connect, triangle, health, green, and digital in European context. And the second thing is, if we want to talk about EU go global on health or whatever, I think that European Union first has to become really European. So if we are talking about one Europe for global health, I think we should not be talking only about European Union for global health. So I think that integrating and enlarging countries like Western Balkan, where I'm coming from, and neighboring countries to European Union through health, green, and digital transformations, I think are not only catalysts for overall EU leadership, but also precondition to go beyond EU on another continent or go global. So I think first point, I think that European Health Union can be driving force for EU enlargement process in general, and European Union global leadership. And by opening a process of becoming European Health Union Plus, I call it Health Union Plus, or European Health Community, like we had European Economic Community from 1957 to until 1993 as a predecessor of today's European Union. So I think the same principle should be applied to European Green Deal by integrating already proposed Western Balkan Green Deal into European Green Deal community. So second point is what I'm talking about, correlation and strengthening concerns health and digital transformation, as it was stated in Leon Declaration, just where I quoted, and I will do just concrete example. My country, the country I'm coming from, is today 4th ranked. I watched this morning the latest ranking on global ranking by number of COVID deaths per million population, after Peru, Bulgaria, and Hungary. So, but if you take top 10 countries from that top blacklist, you will see that besides Peru and Georgia, which is ranked number 8, remaining 8 countries are coming from that cluster, same cluster of Central Europe and Balkan, including countries that became member of EU in 3 different periods, as well as non-EU members from Western Balkan. Besides Bulgaria, Hungary, and Bosnia, next ranked countries by death toll are from this cluster: North Macedonia, Montenegro, Croatia, Czech Republic, and Slovakia. What I'm trying to say is that countries that is missing from this cluster, that is creating some kind of white spot in that 8 out of 10 countries map, is Serbia, which is ranked 55 down there, 2 to 3 times smaller death toll than other countries from the broader region. So of course, there are a lot of potential reasons. I mean, that example, that anomaly, but one of the most evident is state-of-the-art of digital health transformation in that country was based on business and government partnership that was enabling organizing vaccination, integration, pandemic activities in overall healthcare system, and went beyond with mobile-based patient-centered digital transformation. Why I'm saying this? Because this leads me to a concrete proposal that I should be, let's say, something that should come out, among other things, out of this event. I think first, if European Health Union wants to go global, it should start with integrating its neighboring country and missing European link. It has to be really European. European in the sense of how Martians will see what Europe is, because Martians wouldn't see Schengen borders and all our administrative borders in Europe concerning European Union. So I think we should talk about European health community or European Health Union Plus. Second thing I think is that the best practices of patient-centered digital transformation as an integrative tool for national, regional, global health for all should be shared. And third, how to finance it. So I think that it is very important that with next, after Czech pass the torch to Sweden for chairing the European Union, I think it is important to point out that we should use health, green, and digital to really become substantially European, not only European Union once. So that includes multilateral financial institutions like European Investment Bank in supporting digital transformation of European Health Union all the way to the global health. I think this is prime interest of European Union value if European Union wants to be European Union values and prosperity. And after all, just like with the vaccine, no one is safe until everyone is safe. I think the same thing applies to European health. Europe is not healthy if only European Union is healthy. So thank you so much. And thank you, Benoit, for giving me opportunity to share my thoughts with you, and looking forward to continue our cooperation.
Thank you. It was very clear. You tackled many issues. The Green Deal, that is a success for Europe. So the challenge for us for global health, digital revolution somehow that we need, and many points that I think that we all hear what you were underlying. And now we are going to have to discuss what was said before during a short roundtable that will be moderated by Audrey as a co-chair with Alena Steflova from the Czech Medical Association, former also WHO expert, with Caroline Gardner from Filea, which is a network of European Foundation. You are a specialist of climate. You came back from Sharm el-Sheikh, by the way. With Anna Arela-Nesova from the Czech National Association of Patients. Very interesting also to have you with us. And Anna Krupova, you are among the International Association of the Medical Students. So together, you are going to discuss for about, I would say, 20 minutes, 25 minutes. Interacting about what you have heard. So, Audrey, I leave you managing this short roundtable.
Thank you. So we've heard so far about the extreme importance of collaborative, of coherent and also a coordinated approach for One Health. We are, I hope, all convinced about the very strong interlink between environment, animal and human health, and that Europe will be a key player that we heard earlier. So now to go a little bit deeper on the discussions on this topic, considering that there is the launch and the revealing of the Global Health Strategy for European Union later on today. I would like to ask maybe the first question to Anna next to me, talking about the patient perspective, because we all do that for the population at the end of the day. So what would be, for the patient organization, what do you want to see in the One Health strategy? And what are you expecting from this afternoon?
Thank you, Audrey, and thank you for inviting me to this forum. And I have to say that everyone is a patient. We are all patients, right? But I consider myself a patient representative. That is, maybe I know a bit more about health and healthcare systems and how Europe is looking at healthcare and so on. And for us, it's important as patients to unite. And we do unite. As a proof, in the Czech Republic, we just found an umbrella National Association of Patient Organizations. And we try to speak in one voice with other stakeholders, representatives of state institutions, with experts who we consider as key actors and who we cooperate in every way, who are partners. And we welcome, of course, this initiative. It's an initiative that we see as ongoing already, but we see it as a long-term and maybe a bit troublesome initiative, because our friends, other patient organizations in other countries, we see that they perhaps do not receive such health care as we do in different countries. And we want to make a difference. And therefore, it's important to be part as patients of this initiative, because we provide the information from the battlefield, how it really is to live with a condition. And so that therefore we find it crucial that we are taken on board of making this happen. However, this is, and it will be, a very painful path. And I already know that it's all about discussion. It's all about political decisions. And it's all about making a difference on the global level. And we understand that just having a declaration is not enough. It's a beginning, but we need to discuss and sign treaties, sign documents that will make sure that we move one way forward. I already see signs that One Health is sort of happening. My area, which is area of rare diseases, we try to leave no one behind. We really do. We try to push within the Czech presidency for the European Action Plan for Rare Diseases, where we see that if we look at what has been done in the area of rare diseases, we have achieved so much, but it's all work in silos, as everybody is talking about right now. We need to unite the forces and make a centralized approach. We have achieved a lot in terms of healthcare networking, because in 2017 we have European and national European networks for rare diseases, that are already effective and are making a difference for patients. It's a coordinated access to care, and we seem to think that this is the way to go forward in other areas. We also hope to share data in the future that will also enable to do better research. And last but not least, there is this one thing that is troubling us all, and that is a subsidiarity principle. That is the cause that we have different access to healthcare in each member state or in Europe in general, because every country is dealing with access to drugs in a different way on a national level, and that needs to change. We see that with the ultra-rare diseases, there is an amazing drug that is on the market, but the patient cannot access it. How is that possible? So we have to start from this, and I think rare diseases are an area where we can show very visibly the One Health, how we can do this. Let's try it, let's do it. We have seen the signs of European Commission making decisions of making a plan towards mental health. Incredible, that's great, we need that. We need all this coordinated action to work together. So while this is all happening, us patients and patient representatives, we still have to fight our own battle at home. On a national level, we have to do that because time is ticking away, and for those who have chronic diseases, it's ticking away very fast. So we have to do what we can on a national level so far. But we welcome this initiative and we're part of it, and please take us on board. Thank you.
Thank you. So basically, if I can rephrase like very roughly, but how can we put these words and the wish to work together into actions? And I may want to direct that question toward Elena, because you've had a very extensive experience. So how do you think we can have very concrete actions? What are you expecting? And I may add another thing, because we all talk about finances as well. So how can we do the financing? You can leave that part if you want. And maybe just last one thing, how do you think it could articulate this action that we can do within the strategy with the joint action plan for the quadripartite that just was released a couple of weeks ago?
Yes, thank you very much for passing the word, and maybe I would start with the what is the addition, what is the value of today's event here organized in Prague, because we considered how we can really contribute to activities and initiative of coalition, and we really think that to bring the young generation on the board, it could be also the answer how we can do some very concrete activities and initiatives in the matter of how to support the strategies, not only which will be adopted today in Brussels, but also One Health and other as SDGs and etc. I would like to say that if we are speaking about the sustainability and continuity, we really must invite the young generation to the one table, and because there will be this aging for future solutions. Maybe I would also like to mention that youth and young people were also the group which was, let's say, hurt most during the COVID pandemic due to some requested interruptions, breaks, and isolations caused by this crisis. And we want promptly act and to start these discussions, and we think that it's that it would be benefit for both of us or for all of us, because on one hand we have, or it would merge maybe two words. On one hand, the very experienced, distinguished experts, and I am very happy to sitting with them on one table. But also we need to work with academic floor, with NGOs and other initiatives which know well diversities in matter of different conditions of healthcare system, culture insight, or also some geopolitical and economical perspectives. It's very important. But on the other hand, young people really can bring these visions, ideas, and also maybe potentials how to answer to the fulfillment of One Health approach in its fundamental concept. It means this to keep the continuum between these ecosystems, animal and human health, and also societies as a whole. I think that especially this whole the society approach, which is used as a term, is extremely important and very difficult to fulfill, because it's requested this multi-sectoral cooperation, and it's not every time so easy to set up in countries. I would maybe like to mention the example of the Czech Republic. There is existing the model of or strategy Health 2030, which was adopted by the government as strategic documents, conception documents for this decade. And I can say that it's in many aspects is in line already with this document or concept of One Health. I think that it's very important also to understand and to learn that health is really the priority of the sustainability and also prosperity of countries, and we need to push it, and I am sure the coalition is doing it, and it's the purpose also of this foundation. So if I am going back to this young generation, and you spoke on beginning about it and about the importance about that, we realized how to start, and we decided to firstly focus on students of medical universities, because health and well-being is, let's say, the main subject of their educational interest, but also the choice of the professional for future. And therefore I am very happy that the representatives of International Federation of Medical Students Associations are invited today, and our friend and student Hanna Krupova will have a floor very fast or immediately. And she's not alone here, because she's also accompanying her friends and young people who are also attending the webinar today. I think that I would like maybe to conclude by some motto which very well expressed the intention of today's event, that as the leaders of tomorrow, young people need to be part of international effort, and therefore the coalition One Europe for Global Health invites them on the board.
Thank you. So I will actually carry on what you said, and we will let Anna speak, because definitely I completely agree with you. We are talking about a paradigm shift, so we need to empower the young people and to give them the tools that they need to be able to create the change. So on this, we also know that education is a big part, we heard earlier. So what would the youth here, the young professional that you're representing, what would you need as an educational perspective to be able to incorporate One Health in your education path? And also, how would you see, how can we embolden the youth and provide them support so that the global health and the One Health agenda would be put from words to action?
Thank you. So firstly, I would like to express a big thank you to the Czech Medical Association and Mrs. Šteflová for inviting me here as a representative of IFMSA Czech Republic. IFMSA Czech Republic is a national member organization of the International Federation of Medical Students Associations that connects medical students like me with the aim to engage in international cooperation and spread awareness in areas of public health, medical education, reproductive health, and human rights and peace. And as medical students, we often only watch from the sidelines, which is of course part of the experience, as we are still deep in the process of learning and discovering various aspects of health. However, we often have something to add to the table, a different point of view or different experience. And we are aware that youth empowerment and involvement is a long-term goal, and it wouldn't be possible to focus on it without the right connections. But thanks to the previous efforts already, looking back into the past few years with my predecessors, we can already see a positive difference, and that's why I'm here today as well. And I'm overjoyed that bringing the young generation on board has been determined as the aim of this event in Prague, and as continuity and sustainability are frequently talked about. We believe that a joint debate and mutual cooperation can lead to benefit of all and to the new possibilities for Europe's future. Looking back, I was privileged to have attended the World Health Summit in Berlin in October this year, where I had the opportunity to join a group of students to advocate on youth involvement, while also joining the discussion on various global health topics, such as food systems, well-being, climate change, or digitalization of healthcare, all topics that I don't get to meet in my day-to-day studies, sadly, but I can focus on them and talk about them while being member of IFMSA and with the other medical students. I also had a chance to learn more about the One Europe for Global Health initiative there, and I can only hope that with time, eventually this initiative, like the mission they're working on, will lead to the awareness of One Health and global health also being integrated into medical school's curriculum, so that it's not only a question of minority of interested individuals, but more widely spread information that gets to all medical students, not just the ones that have the extra time to engage internationally and nationally on different projects and things. Okay, thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much, Hannah. So you brought on the table something very interesting and important, which is the education about environment and also the place of the environmental questions in the One Health perspective. So now I'm going to turn to Caroline, so you can tell us a little bit more about this specific point, and also if you would like to touch upon a little bit on the financing issues, because as we're setting up a new strategy, we're also talking about finances. So how can we make sure that the money that is going to be put on the table will be used meaningfully? So if you're thinking of any accountability mechanisms, metrics, or things like that to encompass, you might touch as well on that.
Thank you. I think to your first question, if we want to have better health outcomes and more equitable and a more equitable approach to healthcare, we need to address the climate crisis. Climate change is the biggest health threat, threat to human health, but it's also not a distant threat. It's a threat here and now. 25% of excess deaths can be attributed to the burning of fossil fuels. So it's something that we need to take seriously today. And yeah, in some ways, climate change's impact is most tangibly translated into human health. So we need the health community to step up and to be vocal about climate change. I represent the philanthropic sector, and we need health foundations, for example, to step up and integrate climate across everything that they're doing. And so, like, looking back to Sharm el-Sheikh and some of the disappointments around the mitigation agenda, the fact that that we aren't able to put in international agreements things around phasing out fossil fuels. I think the health sector should understand what that means for people, the people that they care for, and advocate to make different change. Sorry. And on the financing piece, What I've heard today and yesterday is a lot around the need for multi-sectoral, multi-stakeholder partnerships that are inclusive of patients, of young people. We need to have an intersectional and holistic approach to health, look at the bigger picture, look at the systems, and change those. And also we need to have health equity, we need to have diversity, equity, equality and inclusion at the center of everything that we're doing. And I think philanthropy and philanthropic, not only funding, but all of the resources that philanthropy brings can be an answer to that. Philanthropy can fill gaps and work in partnership with governments, work in partnership with the private sector. Philanthropy can convene roundtables and make coalitions possible, like the One Europe for Global Health Coalition. There are some challenges to deploy the full potential of philanthropy. For example, cross-border giving is very difficult, although at the moment already more than half of cross-border giving goes to health. So I think, again, that's something that the health sector needs to take seriously. But yeah, we need people to engage with philanthropy, and philanthropy needs to be at the table to make these better outcomes possible.
Okay, all right, thank you. So now before we conclude, just so that you can prepare a little bit, I will ask you, all of you, to conclude in a very short sentence, 1 or 2 words, what would be for you the first concrete action that we need to take? If we have to take an action today, what would be the first one that you would, so that you have time to prepare? And just maybe to regroup a little bit the talk that we heard today. So there is definitely important focus on youth. We've heard also the need to collaborate, to be very coherent, to not necessarily duplicate what already exists, but work in a very good way together. That would be for financing, that would also be for the different approaches, find way to integrate what's existing in Europe and outside, working in partnerships, and there are a lot of other things I could cite from today's discussion, but that would be the main things for now. So I will give you all, maybe starting with you, Elena, for the short words. So one priority, if we want to be very, very concrete, the first things, in a couple of words.
I think that it's really about the continuity of our initiatives and our efforts to put together. And I think that the response is really to cooperate and to be to be one voice and to be really loud.
Okay. Yeah, I would agree. The ensuring continuity across political shifts and across changes in global agendas.
Yeah, open discussion for me is because we need to start discussing if we understand the initiatives. If everybody's on the same boat, that would be for me just open discussion.
Well, I agree with what's already been said, and I would like to add just the discussion on local, national and international level, so that on all levels we can get together and talk and find voice together.
So thank you very much. So that's going to conclude our roundtable, and I will pass the mic back to Benoit, and maybe just insisting a little bit also on the fact that we are going to move from words to actions, and when we think about moving from words to actions, we may also need to think about accountability mechanisms so that we can track and monitor the progress. And speaking of track and monitoring the progress and what we're going to do next, so Benoit and Ole Peter will talk about the rest of the action that we need to put in place.
Thank you, Audrey, for moderating this short roundtable. Very interesting, of course. And so now we are perfect on the timing. So thank you for that. And the time for you, Ole Peter. You also you were also with the health ministers in Grenoble in February during this session on One Health. And talking about the essential, how do you see after 6 months, where do we stand? And just before going to see you in February in Stockholm for the next step of this movement, building European Health Union, and with focus on One Health, global health. How do you see the things and the challenges that we have to to tackle, and especially what you said, it's a policy, implementation, accountability, dialogue, it's all these kind of things to be not in silos, because we have the Green Deal, we have how it could combine, we could combine. So the floor is yours.
Well, I think this discussion has...
You should take the microphone.
I think this discussion has shown us how important it is that we have the young generation on board. I mean, you inspire, you energize, you invigorate the discussions. So thank you very much for taking part in this very, very important initiative and coalition. And I took notice of the one-word distillation of the priorities that emanated during the last part of this discussion. Consistency or continuity. I think these two words are essential. Because what we are talking about is an incredible, very complex challenge. We are moving towards action. And to change things in the world today, that's not easy. And to do this, we need engagement. We need that as many as possible could speak with one voice as to how important it is to really bolster human health in a One Health perspective, taking into account, of course, climate, environment, animal health, and all the different elements that are embedded in the fantastic term One Health. This coalition has grown in size, Benoit. It's very much your efforts that have brought us here today, in fact. It has grown, but what has grown is not only the number of organizations, universities, associations that are coupled to this, but what I sense today is that also the engagement has grown. And we are much more precise now as to what is required for action than we were just half a year ago. So I'm very optimistic about the future. But when I listened to you, I went back exactly 70 years in my mind. What happened in 1952, Benoit? In 1952, thanks again very much to French efforts, German efforts, a treaty was signed, the European Coal and Steel Community. Let's ponder European steel and the coal and steel community. This tells us that the construction that we have here in Europe, with respect, it's outdated. Today, 70 years later, we need a health and climate community. Not only including EU, as was pointed out very clearly, but Europe at large. And with the health and climate community, of course, we include all the aspects that we are discussing here, the One Health aspect, environment, climate, everything. And I think it was also spot on what was said, that when we look at the priorities of the European Union in the context of a health and climate community, we see the need for convergence, that the different priorities that are embedded now in the EU strategies, like the green transition, the digital transition, they have to converge on health. Health must be center stage. One Health must be center stage. The health and climate community must be center stage. And then going back to the sea, to the continuity, the meeting in Stockholm on the 9th of February has the title, exactly what I just alluded to, Convergence on Health. We have to have continuity, consistency, but we also have to have convergence on health. But because what we have learned over the past 2 years during the pandemic is that health, that's the most important priority that we can possibly have when it comes to politics, and when it comes to the society at large. And I think this coalition is very well poised to preserve this momentum that we have after the pandemic, to help ensure that One Health is center stage. One of my best friends is a historian. And in a discussion, he said, you know, there is something wrong with our brains. Because when we have been through a crisis, we tend to forget. And we tend to forget extremely quickly. Such as after the Spanish flu. Now is the time to keep our minds, our brains alert to what we learned during the pandemic, to preserve the momentum so that we can be better prepared next time around and that we can build a more equitable healthcare service and access to medicines, vaccines worldwide. And this is something that must now be embedded also in the strategy that will be launched in just a couple of hours. We'll see what will happen, but mind you, if we find elements in this strategy that are missing, we will have this one voice. We will point it out in order to secure that this strategy will end up in action. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Peter. So it is an invitation to follow the vision of what you said with community on health and climate. So thank you. It will be our next step in Stockholm during the EU Swedish presidency, and we are already in touch with the Spanish for the rest of next year. So I would like to thank you all for taking time, energy to be committed in this process. Anna Krupova from the International Youth Association of Medical Students, Ole Peter, of course. Anna Arelanesova, thank you. You represent the Czech National Patient Association. Audrey Fontaine, thank you, Audrey, for moderating and being a co-chair and for your engagement. Caroline Gardner from FILEA, and we see the challenge between health and climate. You're a specialist of climate, and you know many foundations that may have an interest also to come to support this initiative. Detlev, you are at the initiative, the first discussion, always having the vision and the spirit, the young spirit of building what we are doing. And Alena Steflova, through Michel Kazakhtein, we were in touch, and Michel Kazakhtein belonged to the think tank Santé Mondiale 2030, which is also a partner and supporting what we are doing. I know that I have to look to the camera, but I'm looking also to the people on stage. And Professor Stefan Sadina, we were here in your Czech Medical Association. Thank you for your great welcome and for the interest. I thank you also. I thank also to Dorli Kargotlib from the Gartan Forum, Runa Khan from Friendship in Bangladesh, and Zlatko, who is now in a foundation in Sarajevo. The foundation is about values and commitment, and he is also committed in this initiative. I'd like also to thank the other foundations that are that bring support to this initiative. Fondation Bouloukian, Fondation de l'Avenir, Fondation Edmus, and Fondation Hess also. And I'm quite sure that I forget one foundation, maybe, no? Yes, it was a test. It was a test. The Röder Verschow Foundation that was created by Detlev, and that gives the prize, a very good prize this year for the first time. And so I'm sure that other foundations will bring their expertise and their capacity to give us the capacity to develop, to move forward. And I would like also to thank the team, because you know, we are always working in a team with Savannah Faircloth, Brian Rodkin. Together they did a very good job, and thank you also to your team, Professor Zadina and you, Alena, for being able to welcome us in Prague today. So I would like also to thank all the technicians in the room here and the people. It will be in the replay for a long time, and step by step we are working together. Thank you all, and for those who are committed also through the screen, participants, you could connect, you could promote this initiative. We consider that we have a common responsibility to create a European Health Union. It's public, private actors together in a complementarity, in a dialogue due to our expertise and our values and what we see for the future. Thank you all. Bye-bye.